bringing it to my own experience with psychedelics, which quite frankly, I'm surprised that not a lot of people bring this up, but at the same time I understand because drugs and hippie, it's all been smeared, so I get that, but it's something's there, and I'm gonna get into that. This is the origin of how my mind is so open to this. The first one that really absolutely blew my mind wide open, the at the time legal sage known as Salvia divinorum, which is not really considered a psychedelic in the classical sense, so people call it that. Pharmacologically, it's more like a dissociative, but you can achieve the same states with dissociatives as well, ketamine, DXM, all the PCP, if you take enough. But salvia is a specific one. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. This was my first true, undoubtable, I know that I experienced this spiritual experience. Okay. Me and my friend, we had smoked this salvia extract that we bought from the smoke shop a couple times. We felt like you feel kind of drunk and a little trippy and weird, but then you come back and it was whatever. For whatever reason, I was hell-bent on having this experience that I would read online, all these people saying, oh, I talked to my spirit guide or whatever. and we were like, let's make this happen. Somehow I was able to take 3 huge bong hits in a row, repeatedly after the other, to make sure I was just as f***ed as possible. I did that. And then I don't have a vivid memory of it, but I have a distinct and profound memory of encountering at least 3, but perhaps more, separate conscious entities that I don't even really have a visual for it. That's the weird thing about salvia. Some people claim they have distinct visual things happen, but it was not the case for me. But it felt like there was like a semicircle of them, and all of a sudden I was in their presence, and I was just and they were just and I just remember they acknowledged me. I was obviously acknowledging them.
I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul.
There wasn't a language or anything, but it was a nod of, oh, you're here again, huh? And I was like, what the fuck? I've been here before? And, just that kind of absolute, mind-blowing what is happening. But it was very profound. It didn't feel scary. It didn't feel, amazing. It was just very neutral. You're here. We're here. We know you. We've seen you before. Hello, and then goodbye or something. That's the main thing that I remember. Now, what makes this so profound to me afterwards is how I reacted. This is why I really remember this in the way that I do. As I'm coming back, it was me and my friend on this futon in my parents' basement at the time where I was living. I start to come back, and I just remember opening my eyes, and I'm looking at my basement, and I'm like, oh, I'm in my basement. Oh, that's right. Oh shit, I'm me. Okay, yes. I had to reincorporate into reality. I had to remember who I was. It was a full ego death situation. And then I saw my friend, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm in the basement. Right. What just happened? And then the first thing I asked my friend, I was like, someone came down here, right? My parents must have come down here. What happened? As if they would have just went back upstairs after they saw me passed out on the futon. But that was just my initial reaction. And he was like, no. I was like, I'm so certain someone was down here. Because in my mind, I hadn't had an experience like that. So I was certain, I was tripping. So the reason why I felt the presence of multiple conscious individuals was because surely someone else besides my friend, because I remember more than just one other. If it was just one other entity, I would have been like, oh, I was imagining my friend, he was talking while I was tripping, and I was envisioning him like this spiritual entity. No, I remember multiple. So that's why I was trying to confirm. I was like, so obviously some other people came down here, and that's why I was experiencing these other conscious entities. He was like, no, there's no one here. You were just there for a minute, and then you woke up. And then I was just probably sat there for 20 minutes, just what the f***? That was the first time I distinctly, 100% without a doubt, communicated with some conscious entities that were not human, or maybe they were, but they were projected in another realm, and the salvia just ripped my conscious blinders off, and I was just projected into there. At the time, I didn't have a framework of, I didn't know I was just like, I guess there's a spirit. Okay, there's a spirit world. I guess that's real. So the reason why I bring that up, as I was saying before, how I would have been an atheist or something like that, that experience was the first concrete foundation for preventing me forever thinking that there's nothing beyond this tangible realm, because it was so profound that these entities were so more real than my friend that was sitting next to me when I woke up at the time. Aside from making me not an atheist, I've come to think and believe that those three entities that I was communing with could probably have been some NHI, whether they're from another galaxy or just transdimensional. I don't know the details, but they did not feel like your average human consciousness. They felt very powerful, and they were peaceful, they weren't angry, they weren't mean, they just acknowledged me. So now when I think back on that, I'm like, oh, if I'm to believe this extraterrestrial spiritual higher consciousness theory that Stephen Greer purports to be real, then that's what I must have been experiencing, some kind of NHI. So that's what I've come to believe in. These states of mind can be achieved via meditation, CE5, whatever, the psionic thing that Jake Barber's describing. But the psychedelics are kind of like a cheat code to just chemically trick your brain into allowing all of that download to be possible. So that's what I believe. Straight up. And it's strange to me that people don't talk about, like, again, as I mentioned before, not that strange that people like Jake Barber wouldn't say, oh yeah, I also took acid. And that's because most people, when they hear, oh, you were tripping on drugs, then that's not believable by default because you were on drugs. He talks about how profound it made him feel about what he was doing,
and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was.
Now, what he was doing, of course, was picking up a potentially alien craft or whatever, so that in and of itself, it kind of makes sense. But the way that Salvia made me feel, the way heavy doses of mushrooms or LSD or DMT make you feel, it feels like everything that's happening to you is so unbelievably profound, even if it's the simplest thing, like sitting in your chair. And this is all just through the craft transmitting this emotion to him. He's not on any drugs. Obviously, he's piloting a helicopter for a very important, sensitive mission.
It's changed your life.
It's changed my life.
Do you think it's made you a better person, that experience?
It has made me a more sensitive and aware person, which I think all of us would be better people.
And then the other thing he talks about is how it changed his life and it made him a better person, which I would also argue happens when you take, unless you're someone who's prone to like schizophrenia and you lose your mind after you take a high dose of psychedelic drug. It might change your life for the worse. Thankfully, that hasn't happened to me. Don't do that if you have the propensity, and especially if you're young, because you shouldn't be around with your brain development. Let me just make sure I say that. But the psychedelics force you into a spiritual state that you can achieve through transcendental meditation or alien crafts, but the chemicals, your brain has a doorway to unlock, and they're there, and the chemicals exist, whether they're synthesized or taken out of the fungi or the Mimosa hostilis root and mixed with the other plant that has the inhibitor. The whole concept of it makes me wonder, and that is a philosophical podcast in and of itself. Why, if you accept the NHI theories, and if you've done psychedelics, you've had that experiential knowledge to know how significant and profound it is, you must incorporate that into how the NHI either works through your consciousness, how the psychedelics affect your consciousness to allow you to tune into that higher consciousness realm, or maybe there's probably implications for potentially engineered life through the psychedelic. There's all those, the stoned ape theory, all this stuff. Let me talk about the other two experiences I had. I've had many experiences, but the next two that I can remember are the other most spiritually specific. And those are two with LSD. Second time I did it, we took 2 tabs instead of 1. I had already taken one by myself to test it, and it was a great time. No crazy ego death stuff, but just like trippy classic acid stuff by myself in my apartment, which was insane to do, but I'm an insane person, so it is what it is. And then my friend came over and I was like, he was like, let's take two. I'm like, all right, the one was pretty strong, let's try it. And we both pretty much fully lost our minds. We were like brought to the brink of ego death, so that everything is just terrifying. We're like, why are we losing our mind? I don't know. And by the time like we ended up on the other side of it, just having a good time tripping, we were just like, wait, we got through it. That was crazy, right? Didn't get like too wild, but I do remember a very specific sensation that I had at the peak of it, which by the way, we were both just in silence. I don't even think we were listening to music. We were just trying to hold on for our dear lives of mental sanity. And I just remember sitting on a couch and just frozen and having this specific sensation that I was feeling every single emotion that everyone has ever felt ever. That's the best way I can describe it. It was immense terror, tragedy, sadness, grief, coupled with amazement, awe, joy, profoundness, beauty, all in one. I just had this distinct memory of being like, why am I feeling all the things at once so intensely? And that stuck with me. And what brought that back to my memory again was when Jake Barber started talking about how he felt the combination of deep sadness and beauty, and while he's interacting with this craft.
And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song.
So again, just more similarities. So something's going on there. And finally, in the more profound acid experiences was another time where I took a decent amount. I think it was during COVID. It was like during the lockdown. So I was just wilding out. This time I experienced what I have to call a transcendental meditative state, but not in like a ripped out of your body ego death state, but like more of like all I had to do at the peak of this experience. I was in an office chair like this at my desk. All I had to do was close my eyes and focus, and it made the boundary between pure meditation, transcendental meditation, and just being awake like there's a thin veil. All I had to do was close my eyes, and immediately everything was one. I could not distinguish myself from the chair, from anything I was hearing. It was all a single thing. It felt like a unified consciousness. Everything was one. There was no separate entity. All I had to do was close my eyes. But if I opened them, my visual field was fucked up, but I wasn't so far out that I was permanently there until it wore off. So if I had opened my eyes, I could be like, oh yeah, I'm still in the room. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is it puts you into that truly transcendental meditation state that Dr. Greer describes that you have to get to summon these beings. Now, if I had known at the time about the CE5 protocol, I would have been like, we're going to the roof.